This is Hamza, an entrepreneur and content creator of over 2 million subscribers. Have you ever wondered why Hamza tells these personal stories about himself, his previous addictions, his flaws, and how he overcame them? Why he tells the Jeffrey vs. Asta stories? And why he includes them in all of his videos? Well, this is what we'll explain today. This is the power of storytelling, how Hamza controls his followers.
Sekke has grandchildren now. He's sitting with them at a little campfire, and they want to hear some stories about his time as a magic knight. But Sekke quickly realizes he doesn't have any stories to tell. He stumbles over his words, saying "Fuh," like he always does. But his grandchildren are not very invested in what he's saying. Asta has lived a life full of danger and activities. He, as the Wizard King, is telling his grandchildren hundreds of stories every day, and they listen with so much attention. Sometimes children from the neighborhood even join up. This is why Asta will always be the greatest Wizard King. I've always loved stories because I grew up watching movies. They were my babysitter. I watched movies all the time. I've watched so many movies that I know basically all of them, even if I haven't watched them. I love storytelling because of this, and most certainly because I got into anime and manga. Me and my friend, actually over on Discord, we discuss with like entire paragraphs certain stories, such as like Monster. You have the villain called Johann Liebert, and we just write entire paragraphs and analyzing this character and the storytelling behind it, and like the references to the Bible and stuff. So clearly I love storytelling, and I love stories in general. And just by telling you this little story, I've intrigued you more than I usually would have, didn't I? You're now a bit more intrigued in what I'm going to say in this video, because of the stories actually, I just told you. There was a little experiment that went on over at Amazon. Well, not Amazon itself, but a man who utilized Amazon. And he bought 221 objects for a nice price of $129. He put all of these items on Amazon, and he sold them for $8,000. Now, how is that possible? Well, for each item, he put a little story. So he made over 200 stories for each separate, he made over 200 stories, one story for each separate item. For example, it was like a horse's head, cost 99 cents, sold it for $62. Pretty good deal, I'd say. And this is the power of storytelling. I want to reference later. Well, I'll do it later. So how was this possible? How was this possible that the price increased so much, and people, by a simple little story added to an object, got so invested they were willing to pay such a price for this object? It's about emotional investment. When we are emotionally invested in something, our objective observant, so we become less objectively observant when we are emotionally invested in something. And this is where I want to reference someone called David J.P. Phillips, and he talks in a TED talk or a talk about the hormone release that comes with an emotional investment, and he talks about something called the angel's cocktail. Now, the angel's cocktail is a mix of different hormones that are released by storytelling. Now, I kind of need your permission for this. I'm gonna utilize these different hormones, and I'm gonna kind of test them on you. If you don't want this, then you can skip to the section about structural stories for sales. You can skip to that section, because all of the other sections are about these hormones, and I will be utilizing them on you. So be prepared. For the first hormone, we have the very famous dopamine. Well, not dopamine. We have dopamine as the actual hormone, but you can call it dopamine as well. Dopamine, same thing. With dopamine, we have a higher focus, we pay more attention, and we have more motivation. We also remember things better. So we have more focus, which is more attention, we have more motivation, and we remember things better because of the hormone dopamine being released. So I'm just going to tell you a quick story which utilizes this hormone. So just about a week ago, I had my French oral exam. Now, let's skip back to about a month before that, actually. I'd already made my French oral exam 2 times by that point, and I really thought I did better on the second time because I'd learned quite a lot. But when I got the results back, my results were actually worse than the last time. I wasn't really discouraged by this. Well, I was for a bit, but I picked up the line and saw it as a motivation to push forward and to take them back. So I followed lessons. We hired a tutor one-on-one, and I followed lessons every single day for 2 hours. So imagine this for an entire month, every day 2 hours of lessons, and she always gave me a task. And it wasn't just like a little tiny task, it was always an entire page to 2 pages of like a book I had to make for the next day. So I practiced a whole lot. I watched podcasts, I read in French, I did these calls, I did the homework, I even read some books to practice certain sentences for my oral exam and maybe to use in my written exam as well. So I felt really prepared, and the date got closer and closer, and I didn't really notice much progress, but my teachers kept saying like, no, there is progress, you're making a lot of progress. So okay, I felt kind of confident that I was making progress, but I just didn't notice it myself. But when I made certain tests to test my level, I saw myself that my level did indeed increase. The date rolls around, 30th of June, just a few days ago, well, for me at least, while recording this, and I had just had in my written exam the day before. So I didn't really feel if I really made so much progress in written exam, so I thought it would be the same for oral exam. So I made the exam. There were 3 exercises. So one exercise, you do a monologue. Second exercise is you talk with the examiner, you're doing a job application. And the third exercise, you're pretending, you read an article and you pretend like you're talking about that article with a friend. So the exam was finished, and she asks me, that went pretty good? Well, no, she didn't say that because you have to stay neutral, but she kind of nodded and she said, well, okay, that's over. I wish you luck on your next exams. And I said that this was my last exam. I didn't have any exams after this, and I also had my written exam the day before. And she said, oh, well, if there's any consolation, Jens, just know you want to know what she said, didn't she? You want to know what she said, don't you? I'm not gonna say it. I don't know if this was a proper example. I hope it was, but your attention increased. You were more invested, and you're kind of annoyed I didn't, reveal the answer of what did she say. Maybe I spoiled too much of it. I hope I didn't. I really hope I did this properly. But the point of this exercise was that your focus increased. You had, let's see right here. So your focus increased. You were more invested, and this is because I built up suspense. To release dopamine levels, you have to build suspense and throw a cliffhanger. But a cliffhanger isn't very necessary because you kind of build suspense with every story you tell. Every story you tell kind of builds suspense. So dopamine levels will always be present in any story you tell. So my story literally couldn't have failed because every story releases some kind of dopamine. You will always be a bit more invested when someone's telling a story. And we're going to move on to the second hormone, which is oxytocin. Now, oxytocin makes you more generous. It will build a trust with me, and you will bond with me, whether you like to or not. This was a few years ago. I was about 9 years old, and I was living in a house in the city called Genk in Belgium. Don't know how to pronounce it in English. Genk. I'm gonna say Genk because it's the best way I can say it in English, in an English accent. So I was about 9 years old, and I had two pets. A cat named Bowie, named after the singer Bowie because he had two different colored eyes as a small baby cat, and a dog named Zita, a female dog. I've known them all my life up until that point, since the day I was born and as long as I can remember. I love them very dearly, and Bowie was my, well, as sad as it may sound, but was my best friend. He was always on my lap. I was really connected to them in a deep manner. Like, I don't think I've achieved that kind of relationship with a pet afterwards, but I do love my pets currently, but it's not the same level as Zita and Bowie because they will always be my first pets. They will always be like friends that I've known since childhood. So I was 9 years old, and we were preparing to move to South Africa because my dad had done an exam and he succeeded. So we were already preparing to move out, sell the house, move to South Africa. We were arranging everything, and it got kind of difficult with the animals because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work, and there's a lot of preparation with doctors and stuff like that. And at this point, the cat and the dog, they were both already over 13 years old. So it was even more difficult at that point. And we were about a month away from moving to South Africa. And suddenly, Zita started to slow down. She was less active than before. She lied down more. She didn't really stand up when I pet anymore. She just kind of lied there. I think this was 1.5 months actually before we moved to South Africa. And we had to put her down. It was the first pet I ever lost. And it saddened me deeply. Because Zita and Bowie had been together for all these 13 years, Bowie was actually present before Zita. He noticed there was a presence that was missing. And because of this, Bowie got very stressed out over that 1.5 months, actually half a month. And so 1 month before we moved to South Africa, we had to put down Bowie as well. So in a span of 1.5 months, actually maybe even half a month, it's very vague, I lost both of my pets at 9 years old, and I've known them up until that point for 9 years. And a month later we had to move to South Africa without pets, even though everything was arranged for them. Whether you want to or not, you've just bonded to me because of that experience. You have now bonded to me. You trust me more, and it's because I've created empathy. Releasing the hormone oxytocin is done by building empathy in your story. You make the audience relate to you, relate to your character, relate to your struggles, relate to your mentality and your personal thoughts at that point. What I did with these two scenes is you could envision them in your mind. I didn't describe anything. I didn't even describe my pets. But because maybe you have pets yourself, you kind of envisioned your pets and yourself in this scenario. Or maybe you envisioned me, but your pets. And this made you relate even more. Empathy is a beautiful thing, and oxytocin is a beautiful hormone because it makes you human. It makes you feel more human as well. So this is the second hormone of the angel's cocktail. And let's hop on to the third hormone, which I'm gonna show a clip. Whoa. I'm gonna not enact because I'm not very I'm pretty funny, but let's use a clip for this. The third hormone is endorphin. Now endorphin makes you more creative. It makes you more relaxed, and it also makes you more focused, just like the first hormone, dopamine.
Marijke, jij had een normaal leven daarvoor en toen plots kom je uit narcose en dan merk je dat het leven niet meer hetzelfde zal zijn. Hoe reageer je daar dan op?
Ja, eerst met heel veel ongeloof.
Ongeloof is eigenlijk het juiste woord.
Excuseer.
Ongeloof is eigenlijk het juiste woord wat Marijke hier hanteert. Dat was bij mij dus ook mijn eerste gewaarwording. Dat ik dacht, dat kan niet.
Je toekomst. Sorry. Excuseer, dames en heren. Dat betekent ook dat bijvoorbeeld seksualiteit ook een groot probleem bijvoorbeeld wordt.
Ja, mijn vriend heeft het gewoon gedaan gemaakt. En ik neem hem daar ook niet kwalijk.
Plus het feit, als je met seks omgaat, is het niet alleen het fysieke dat telt, maar ook soms de lieve woordjes. Ja, ik vind dus dat dit echt niet kan hoor. Ik bedoel, maar nee, maar moeten we nu nog antwoorden of niet? Want ja, dan zwijg ik liever.
Ik heb hetzelfde. Ik ben eigenlijk bij een vrij eenvoudige ingreep ook gekwetst geraakt aan de stembanden. Maar
ik vind dus dat dit niet kan horen wat gebeuren is.
ik vind het vrij ergerlijk, meneer, gedurende een half uur
dit kan voor mij
uitgelachen te
absoluut
worden
niet.
vlak in het gezicht kan proberen.
Endorphin makes you laugh. It's a beautiful hormone, and this woman in this clip was clearly a bit overdosed on endorphin. A lot of people, it's very difficult to make people laugh, actually, sometimes. But the best way to make anyone laugh is to laugh yourself. Because laughing makes other people laugh. It's very simple. If I now saw something very funny, or I said something that I found funny myself and I laugh at that joke, you will automatically kind of laugh with me, even if you don't find it funny at all. Simply because I'm smiling and I'm laughing. So this is the third hormone, oxytocin, that can be released in storytelling. So this is the angel's cocktail. But there's also a less pleasant version of the angel's cocktail. And the name says it, of course, is the devil's cocktail. With the devil's cocktail, two hormones are released. These are cortisol and adrenaline. Devil's cocktail kind of goes like, you're a fucking little loser, okay? You're a fucking little loser! Okay, I can't do this. Okay, whatever. I can be mad. Anyways. It's that, okay? Cortisol and adrenaline, they have a lot of factors. So, if they're done in high concentrations, they make you irritable, they make you uncreative, they make you critical, they make you intolerant, they make your memory impaired, and they make you make bad decisions. If you overdose on the devil's cocktail, I literally can be angry. Why do people relate so much to what Andrew Tate is saying, you think? It's because Andrew Tate uses a very high usage of the devil's cocktail. He's always very bam, bam, bam. If you see a gamer rage, where they like slam their PC and stuff, why is it you think you kind of get like annoyed when you see it? When you just unconsciously, unintentionally by watching that, it's because of the release of cortisol and adrenaline you get from watching these people rage. You automatically, just the same way with endorphin, you reenact the same thing. Why is it you think that in the army or with the SEALs, you will always see these superiors will be screaming at their candidates? They'll be like screaming stuff in their face. Why is that, you think? They're trying to break them. They're trying to see if they can make them irritable, if they can break them by screaming at them, because they know that screaming gives these effects. That's why they do them. That's what happens when you use the devil's cocktail. So, having explained all the hormones, I just want to say that everyone can be a storyteller. What I just did here, I did in minutes. For the first story I had to think a little while. For the second story, I just came up with it. I didn't come up with it, of course, but I thought about it on the spot. The thing is, you always think you have to be like, we have this vision that you have to you actually be this wise old man sitting in a campfire, and then Hansel and Gretel, to be a storyteller. You always have to have like a David Goggins story with so much experience and hardship to be able to tell a story, which is not true. You don't need these kinds of things to be a good, effective storyteller. I always tell stories in my videos, and let me tell you, I have had nowhere near as a hard life of David Goggins, but that's maybe just how I think about it. Maybe in the eyes of my viewers, that is a hard life. I mean, I moved to South Africa, went back to Belgium, then moved to India. Most people just stay in one place for their entire teenage lives. And they just stay there. So the thought of, just the thought of having to move to a different country, different school, then do that again, and then again, for a lot of people, that might be like outlandish. But for me, that's normal. So whatever you think is normal for you could actually be a very interesting story for others. So I want you to take an actionable step to get better storytelling right here, right now. Write down some of your life experiences. Just a few. You'll quickly notice when you're writing them down that you want to write down more, that you notice you'll have a lot of stories to tell. You'll see that you have a lot of experiences that other people could benefit from potentially. Everyone can be a storyteller. If I can be a storyteller, so can you. There is no exceptions. So I want you to do this actionable step after the video, or pause right now and do it right now. Write down some of your experiences, and you'll see that you have a lot of stories.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money.
I now want to explain what structure you can use, what structure of stories you can use for sales. Now I'm talking sales mostly in terms of media, social media, but this can also be used for products or a selling page. So the structure or the formula we're going to use is, first you need a context. So context is just where you were, what time. For example, in my story that released Oxytocin, I described I was 9 years old. It was a lot of years ago when I was 9 years old, preparing to move to South Africa. That's context. That's all the context you need. It's just the who, when, and where. That's the context. So with the context, you kind of explain the situation you were in very quickly. Then you move on to problem. This is where you explain the problem you had. You explain what challenge you faced and what you went through. So a lot of times in self-improvement, this will be, for example, the story where I tell how I jacked off 3 times a day. That's the challenge I went through, and I explain it in detail, create empathy and stuff like that. Then you want to present a solution. You want to have this moment of eureka in your story, this moment you realized what you should be doing. You then explain, so you explain the solution that you found, and then you explain what you did with that solution, and then you have result. Is it result? Yeah, result. So context, problem, solution, and result. With result, you explain the aftermath. What did it do for you? How did it help you? How is your life right now because you did this certain thing? With this structure, you can sell a lot of things. I do it for self-improvement, but you can also use it for almost everything else in sales. A product, for example, is perfect for this. Just the way the superior man. I was struggling. Just a year ago, I really didn't know what manhood stood for. I didn't know what kind of man to be. And I had some relationship problems with my wife. The relationship was going really bad, and I actually feared we might get divorced. But I went into a bookstore and I saw this little fellow laying around. Instantly I knew that I had to take the book, read it, and then it benefited me. This book taught me and the results have been I'm not going to emphasize those. But just by that, I just created, this was imaginative. Of course, my stories aren't, they are actually related to me, they aren't made up. But this one was made up. And I just created a context, a problem, kind of a solution, and then the results I skipped. So this is how you utilize storytelling for selling a product. So this is how it can be used for selling. Now I want to go into how it can be used for memorization. And I quickly have to make a setup for this. So I'm going to pause right here. Pause right here. Right, we're quickly going to use this kind of camera right now. You can see my head. I'm going to go like this. Okay. Right, so we made a quick setup. This is how I'm going to show you how you utilize storytelling for memorization now. I've been very good at memorizing, oh my god, all my life. So there's a little game we play where you say where you're going to go. So I go to the doctor and I take with me, and then you kind of take turns and list up an item, and you each have to repeat the item you just said. So for example, I go to the doctor and I take with me lotion. I go to the doctor and I take with me lotion and anti-baldness. I go to the doctor and I take with me lotion, anti-baldness, and steroids. You see, and that's how you go on and go on. And I won a lot of these. So I'm pretty good with memorization on my own. But what I've done in the past, and I've done all my life, is use storytelling to memorize even better, which we're going to do right now. So you can use storytelling for memorization. As I said, with dopamine, the hormone dopamine releases, when dopamine is released, you have more focus, more attention, and you remember things better. So that's exactly what we're going to utilize right here. So we just have random items and just try to memorize these and see how long it takes. It's not a lot this time. It can be more than this. You can do this practice yourself if you like. Take as many items as you can. Maybe I'll take another one. Let's just take a glass right here. Maybe take the way of the superior man as well. Who knows? There we go. Take as many items as you can, and let's just get into business. Okay. So memorizing these on your own can be quite hard. But what makes it way easier is creating a story with these things. So let's create a story for all of these items, and let's see how many of them you can remember. Right. We're just going to call this a turkey, because what is it called? It's parelhoen. I know it's parelhoen, but I forgot the name in English. Guinea? No, Guinea? Whatever. We're going to call it a turkey, right? For making it easier. Right. A turkey is walking down the street, but suddenly he sees his friend. He needs to tell him something, so he takes out his wallet. Out of his wallet, he takes a stack of sticky notes that he brought with him. These consist of 400 sticky notes, which is quite a lot. The turkey also has a marker with him. He utilizes this marker and writes down on one of the sticky notes to put on a headphone. As he just did that, he proudly takes a sip from his glass because he just helped a friend. He puts up the sticky note that says put on the headphones, and so the friend does. This was all a scene from a very high quality 3-star movie. The director says cut, and the scene ends. This movie is inspired by the book The Way of the Superior Man, and thus the director is reading this book for inspiration. The turkey goes back to his cabin and trains his forearms so he can have nice forearm veins in the next scene, or 4 paws veins in the next scene. Let's see if you can remember all the items. So turkey, wallet, sticky notes, marker, glass, headphones, action thing, the Way of the Superior Man, and hand trainer, if it's called that. I know this was kind of easy because these were easy items and they were burned a lot, but instantly, because of telling a story, it becomes easier to memorize all of these. And you can use this on a grand scale. If you have to remember like certain words or actions in a certain subject that takes a lot of theory and studying, this is the perfect technique for you to use to create stories with these objects, making them they get stuck in your head, because now all you can think about is a fucking turkey taking out his wallet, taking out sticky notes, writing, put on your headphones, drinking proudly. The friend sees the notes, puts on his headphones, director says cut, reads The Superior Man for inspiration, and the turkey goes back to his cabinet to train his 4 paws. That's all you can envision now. You won't ever forget these items, I promise you that. The next time I say list the items in a random ass video, you can list them. So this is how you can use storytelling for sales, memorization, and this is the power of storytelling. This video is now half an hour long. It's a long video, but it's worth it because it's a very grand topic, an interesting topic that's very powerful if you utilize it right. If you got to this point, let me just say I'm very proud that you got this far, because anyone who clicked off up until now, they're weaker than you. Not just because of the attention span, also because they don't have the power that you have now. Because you now know how you can utilize storytelling to gain massive power. Hamza uses this, I use this, any massive creator uses this. The power of storytelling. Being weak is not to be ashamed of. Staying weak is. It's wrong.